You were told that saving makes you smart, that holding your money means holding your future. But that's the lie that keeps you obedient. Because money doesn't reward safety, it rewards movement. The rich don't save, they deploy. Every dollar is a soldier, sent to conquer more. While you're guarding your little fortress of savings, they're expanding empires. You don't lose money by spending, you lose it by standing still. Money rots in fear, it grows in motion. Let me tell you something that will make you uncomfortable. Everything you've been taught about money is designed to keep you small. From the moment you could understand words, they programmed you with a simple equation. Save equals smart, spend equals stupid. Your parents said it. Your teachers repeated it. Society branded it into your brain. Put your money in the bank. Save for a rainy day. Don't spend it all in one place. And you believed it because it sounds responsible. It sounds wise. But here's what they never told you. Saving is not intelligence. Saving is obedience. It's the financial training collar they put on you to make sure you never bite the hand that feeds you. Think about it. Who benefits when you keep your money locked away, dormant, still? Not you. The banks benefit. They take your stagnant dollars and deploy them into the world while paying you scraps in interest. The system benefits because a population that hoards money is a population that stays dependent. But the wealthy, they see money differently. They don't guard it like a dragon sitting on gold. They unleash it like a general commanding an army. Every dollar they spend is a soldier sent to conquer more territory. While you're sitting in your fortress, counting coins, feeling safe, they're out there capturing cities. And here's the cruel truth. Your fortress isn't protecting you, it's imprisoning you. Because money, by its very nature, hates stillness. When water stops moving, it becomes stagnant, it rots. Money is the same. Stored money doesn't grow stronger with time, it weakens. Inflation eats it. Opportunity cost compounds against it. The lie of saving tells you that accumulation equals security. But security is an illusion sold to keep you compliant. Real power comes from circulation, from motion, from the courage to put your resources into action. Think about the wealthiest people you know of, the ones who built something from nothing. Do they have massive savings accounts? No, they have assets, businesses, investments, systems that multiply wealth while they sleep. They understand hoarding money is financial death. Every day you leave money sitting idle, you're not being careful, you're being cowardly. And the system loves your cowardice. It depends on it, because a brave population is a dangerous population. So they sold you the lie. They wrapped it in wisdom. They made it sound like virtue. Be responsible, be prudent, be afraid. And you bought it. But today, that lie dies. There are two types of people in this world, servants and masters. And the difference has nothing to do with how much money they have right now. It has everything to do with their relationship to fear. The servant fears loss. The master fears stillness. When a servant gets $100, their first instinct is protection. How do I make sure I don't lose this? They grip it tight. They hide it away. Their entire financial psychology is defensive. And defense, in the game of wealth, is slow death. The master has a different relationship with money entirely. When a master gets $100, they ask, what can this become? They see money not as a thing to be preserved, but as a tool to be used. They understand that money sitting still is money dying. So they move it, they deploy it, they send it out into the world to bring back more. And yes, sometimes they lose. But the master doesn't fear loss the way the servant does. Because the master knows loss is information. When you lose money on a failed investment, you didn't just lose money, you gain knowledge. You bought experience. The servant sees loss as proof they were right to be afraid. The master sees loss as tuition for a lesson they needed to learn. Machiavelli wrote, "Fortune favors the bold, but only the strategic bold, not the reckless, but those who have the courage to act, combined with the wisdom to calculate." Think of money as the blood flow of an empire. When blood flows, the body lives, muscles can move, the heart beats strong. But when blood stops flowing, what happens? Death. Money is the same in your financial empire. When it flows through investments, through skill development, through leverage, your empire grows. But when it stops, when it becomes stagnant, your empire begins to die. You might not feel it at first, but slowly, parts of your potential start to die. Your ability to seize opportunities atrophies. Your skills become outdated while you refuse to invest in learning. Your network shrinks while you refuse to spend money on access. And one day you wake up and realize you've been financially dead for years. The servant builds a fortress and sits inside it, feeling safe. The master builds an empire and expands it, feeling powerful. The servant's question, what if I lose? The master's question, what if I win? And that difference in psychology creates a difference in destiny. Every dollar you spend should increase your ability to earn more later, not make you feel better now, not give you comfort. It should make you more dangerous in the marketplace, more skilled, more connected, more capable, more valuable. Because the system doesn't reward hard work, it rewards usefulness. You can work yourself into an early grave, and the market will compensate you exactly what you're worth, which is nothing. But if you can spend money to become more useful, more rare, more in demand, then suddenly you have leverage. Let me give you an example. Two people, both making $3,000 per month. Person one saves $500 every month. After 1 year, they have $6,000 in savings. Person two spends $500 every month on education, courses, coaching, skills. After 1 year, they have $0 in savings. Who made the better choice? The servant says, obviously person one, they have $6,000. But the master looks deeper. Person two now has skills worth $60,000 per year. They've increased their earning potential by $20,000 annually. In 3 years, person two has earned an extra $60,000 because of the capabilities they built. The math isn't even close. Being cheap with money makes you expensive in time. When you refuse to spend $200 on a course that could teach you a high-income skill, you're not saving $200. You're sentencing yourself to years of trial and error. Someone refuses to invest in learning. They say, I'll figure it out myself. And they do, eventually. But it takes them 2 years instead of 2 months. In those 2 years, they lost opportunities worth tens of thousands of dollars. They saved $200 and lost $20,000 in opportunity cost. That's not intelligence. That's self-sabotage disguised as frugality. The question you must ask with every dollar, does this increase my capability or just my comfort? If it's comfort, be careful. Comfort is expensive and produces nothing. If it's capability, spend without hesitation. Capability compounds. The bold act while others wait. Because opportunities rot like fruit left untouched. When you see a chance to increase your skills, your knowledge, your value, you don't have time to save up. You move immediately. Because the capability you gain today will pay you back for decades. Every month, you should be spending money to upgrade yourself. Your mind, your skills, your health, your network. If you're not, you're falling behind. Stop saving to feel safe. Start spending to become dangerous. Power is not what you know. Power is where you stand. And position can be bought. The wealthy don't buy products. They buy access. They buy proximity to decision makers. They buy their way into rooms where opportunities are discussed before they're public. They buy position on the chessboard of influence. Let me paint you a picture. Two entrepreneurs, both talented, both hardworking. Entrepreneur one spends $10,000 on rent, keeping costs low, working from home. Entrepreneur two spends $10,000 on a ticket to an exclusive business retreat. The poor person thinks entrepreneur two is wasteful. But here's what happens. At that event, entrepreneur two meets a potential partner, someone with distribution channels they don't have. They have a conversation, a deal is struck. 6 months later, that connection generates $500,000 in revenue. $10,000 spent, $500,000 return. That's not wasteful, that's leverage. That's understanding that before swords clashed, deals were made. Position is everything. You can be the most skilled person in your field, but if you're unknown, you're worthless. You can have the best product, but if you're not in front of buyers, you're broke. The system tells you to work hard and you'll be discovered. That's a lie. You won't be discovered, you'll be overlooked, unless you buy your way to visibility. This is why the wealthy spend money on things that look absurd to the poor. $5,000 dinners, $20,000 conference tickets. The poor call it showing off. The rich call it positioning, because the ROI isn't in the food or the hotel. The ROI is in who you sit next to, who you shake hands with, who remembers your face. Power doesn't wait to find you. It waits for those who can pay the entry fee. Would you rather have a nice car or a meeting with someone who could change your life? Would you rather have expensive clothes or access to a network that opens doors? Would you rather feel rich or become powerful? Most people choose feeling rich. They buy symbols of success before they have actual success. And then they wonder why they're still struggling. The master does the opposite. They look broke for years while they invest every dollar into proximity, into access, into rooms, into networks. And slowly, their position improves. They're no longer outsiders looking in. They're insiders making moves. Opportunities come to them instead of them chasing opportunities. All because they paid for position when everyone else was paying for comfort. Leverage turns one man's decision into 1,000 actions. At some point, you hit a ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day. And if your wealth is limited by your personal output, you'll never be truly wealthy. The master asks a different question. While the servant asks, how can I work harder? The master asks, how can I spend money to make 10 people work while I rest? This is leverage. Machiavelli understood this. The wise ruler never swings his own sword, he hires soldiers to do it. Not because he's lazy, but because his time is more valuable directing the army than fighting in it. An entrepreneur is making $5,000 per month, doing everything themselves. Marketing, sales, customer service, accounting. They work 80 hours per week. Exhausted, burned out, stuck. Someone suggests, hire a virtual assistant for $300 per month. Their reaction, I can't afford that. But can they afford not to? Those admin tasks consume 20 hours per week. 20 hours they could spend on sales, on growth, on strategy. If they hired the assistant and used those 20 hours to acquire new clients, they could easily add $2,000 per month. 300 spent, 2,000 gained. That's leverage. But most people can't see it. They see the $300 expense and feel fear. The master sees the $2,000 opportunity and feels excitement. This compounds. You hire one person. That frees up 10 hours. You use those hours to generate more revenue. You hire another person. Another 10 hours freed. And suddenly, you're not working in the business anymore. You're working on the business. You're not executing. You're directing. You're not a soldier. You're a general. And generals don't fight every battle. They pay to command the army. Time is the only currency that matters. You can make more money. You can build more businesses. But you cannot create more time. Every second that passes is gone forever. The servant saves money and wastes time. The master spends money and saves time. Power isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in control over time. Think about how most people live. They spend hours trying to save a few dollars. They drive across town for cheaper gas. They refuse to pay for convenience, for speed, for acceleration. And they call this being smart. But it's not smart, it's short-sighted. While they're saving $5, they're losing 2 hours. And those 2 hours could have been spent learning a skill worth $5,000. The math doesn't work. You cannot trade time for pennies and expect to become wealthy. The wealthy understand this instinctively. They don't cook their own meals. They pay someone. They don't clean their own houses. They hire help. They don't spend 3 hours researching the best deal. They pay for quality and move on. Not because they're wasteful, but because their time is worth more than the money they're spending. If your time is worth $100 per hour and you spend 3 hours to save $30, you just lost $270. You feel like you saved money, but you actually destroyed value. The master calculates differently. They ask, what is my time worth? Then they refuse to spend it on anything below that threshold. This is why the wealthy pay for acceleration. They pay for coaches who compress years of learning into months. They pay for consultants who solve in weeks what would take months to figure out. While others crawl, they sprint. And that speed compounds. Every wasted hour is a piece of your potential gone forever. You can't get it back. You can't redo it. It's just gone. Stop trading your hours for pennies. Start asking, how can I buy back my time? Because the race doesn't go to the most frugal. It goes to the fastest. Freedom is not having what you want. Freedom is having options when things go wrong. Power without redundancy is just a disaster waiting to happen. The servant builds their life on single points of failure. One job, one income stream, one client, and they feel fine until that one thing breaks. Then everything collapses. The master builds differently. They spend money to create substitution, multiple income streams, backup systems, alternative routes, options. Machiavelli wrote, "A ruler who depends on others is never safe, because dependence creates vulnerability, and vulnerability creates fear." The master refuses to be dependent on any single thing. They pay for redundancy even when it seems wasteful. They build backup plans even when everything is going well, because control comes from options, and options cost money. A business owner has one major client that generates 80% of their revenue. Everything is great, but they're not free. They're trapped. If that client leaves, they're destroyed. So they spend money on acquiring more clients, diversifying revenue. Their profit margin drops temporarily. It looks like waste. But what they've actually done is buy freedom. Now they're not afraid of losing any single client. Now they can say no to bad deals. Now they can negotiate from strength instead of desperation. That's power. That's what substitution creates. This applies to everything: income streams, skills, relationships, geographic locations. The master always asks, if this disappeared tomorrow, what would I do? Then they spend money to make sure they have an answer. Substitution is freedom through replacement. Powerful people stay calm during chaos. Not because they're naturally calm, but because they already paid for their escape routes. When the market crashes, they're fine because they diversified. When their industry changes, they're fine because they have other skills. They don't panic because they have options. And options are expensive to build but priceless to have. The time to dig a well is before you're thirsty. The time to build a backup is before you need it. The time to create substitution is while you're still strong. So we arrive at the end. But this isn't really an ending. It's a beginning. Because everything you've just learned requires a fundamental shift in how you see money. You have to see it for what it really is. A tool. Nothing more, nothing less. And tools are meant to be used. Stop defending your money. Start commanding it. Every dollar you have is waiting for orders. And if you can't answer those questions, if you're too afraid to give commands, then your money will serve someone else. It will sit in a bank while they invest it. It will lose value while they gain value through assets. Money doesn't exist to be stored. It exists to be deployed. Stored money feeds banks. Used money feeds your empire. Every transaction is a move on the chessboard. The goal isn't to be careful. It's to be calculated. Careful means avoiding risk. Calculated means managing risk. Careful is defense. Calculated is offense. And in the game of wealth, offense always wins. So stop playing defense with your money. Stop asking, what if I lose? Start asking, what if I win? What if that investment works? What if that skill transforms your career? What if that connection opens doors? The master lives in the world of what if I win? The servant lives in the world of what if I lose? And those two worlds create completely different lives. The goal isn't to have money, it's to control what money gives you. Money gives you capability when you invest it in skills. Money gives you position when you invest it in access. Money gives you leverage when you invest it in systems. Money gives you time when you invest it in speed. Money gives you freedom when you invest it in options. But money gives you nothing when you just hold it. Nothing except the illusion of security. You're going to die with money left over. The question is, will you leave behind unused potential? Or will you leave behind an empire you built with every resource you had? Because legacy isn't built by savers, it's built by spenders, strategic spenders. People who understood that money is ammunition, and ammunition is worthless unless you fire it. Think about every great empire in history. Rome, Mongolia, Britain. They weren't built by nations that hoarded resources. They were built by nations that deployed resources, that spent money on armies, on infrastructure, on expansion. And the same principle applies to your personal empire. You cannot save your way to greatness. You cannot hoard your way to power. You have to spend strategically, aggressively, relentlessly, on capability, on position, on leverage, on time, on options. This is the path. Not comfortable, not safe, not guaranteed, but real. Money hates stillness. It rots in fear. It grows in motion. And if you can't put it in motion, you'll spend your entire life as a servant. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can choose to see money as a tool instead of a treasure. You can choose to deploy instead of defend. You can choose to command instead of worship. And when you make that choice, everything changes. You're no longer anxious about losing money. You're anxious about deploying it effectively. You're no longer asking, can I afford this? You're asking, will this make me more powerful? This is the mindset shift. From scarcity to strategy, from fear to calculated aggression, from servant to master. So they spend, they invest, they deploy, they move, and slowly, the gap between them and the servants grows wider. Not because they started with more, but because they used what they had differently. Money is alive. It needs circulation, movement, purpose, direction. When you spend it on capability, on position, on leverage, on time, on options, your empire grows stronger. But when you stop that flow, when you let it pool and stagnate, your empire begins to die. Because stillness is death. So move your money, give it orders, deploy it like the general you're meant to be. Stop worshipping it, start commanding it. Because if you don't control your money, someone else will control you with theirs. They'll hire you with it, they'll buy your time with it. And one day you'll realize you spent your whole life serving their vision instead of building your own. Not because you weren't capable, but because you were afraid. Afraid to spend, afraid to risk, afraid to deploy. So, spend strategically, spend aggressively, spend with purpose. Because the masters of this world are not waiting. They're moving, they're deploying, they're conquering. The choice is yours. Stop saving, start deploying. Stop defending, start attacking. Stop worshipping money, start commanding it. Because money hates stillness. And if you're standing still, you're already falling behind. Stop worshipping money, start commanding it. Your empire is waiting.